Hello and welcome to Book Break for October 6th at Greece Public Library. My name is Kirstra. I'm one of the librarians here. I moderate our Pints and Prose book discussion group, and I am joined as always by my intrepid colleague, Claire.
Hello, wearing the new t-shirt that Kirstra recommended.
So exciting.
Yes, I'm Claire and I moderate As the Page Turns and also our historical fiction book club on Facebook.
Excellent. So today we are going to be talking to you about some read-alikes. So we've each picked some popular books from the not too distant past. I think mine are all fairly recent. And we're going to recommend another book. So if you liked the first one, you might want to try another.
Yes.
You want to kick us off?
Sure. Now, mine is definitely from a little bit more remote past. It's like if you liked the Philippa Gregory, Other Boleyn Girl, and other books about that time period in England, I would recommend this one, which was just published last year. It's called Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. And this one is really interesting because what a sin eater is a person that eats prescribed food to take away your sins. And this was something that existed in 16th century England. So what the author did was kind of make a historical fantasy, but to me, I found it like I could definitely read into the time period like Henry VIII, his wives, and so forth. So our main protagonist is a young girl named May. She's 14. She has stolen some bread, and she has been, for her punishment, she is made a sin eater. So she not only do you have to eat the foods, but you're not allowed to speak unless you're hearing the confessions or talking in that role. So you're forced to be mute, which God knows I can never do that.
I would not last.
No. So Orphaned and Friendless, May is apprenticed to an older sin eater who can't speak to her. So she's trying to figure out this job. And they go to a confession that is held at the castle with one of the queen's governesses, and they hear the confession. And then when they go back to eat the meal after the woman has died, there is a deer heart on the coffin, which signifies a terrible crime. And the older sin eater balks because she knows that wasn't in the confession. So she's taken away. May just eats everything and then has to figure out why, like what is going on. So it's like a mystery within kind of like her trying to find her way, and also like who she is. Why was she made a sin eater in the first place? She can't really figure that out. So if you like reading about King Henry VIII, his wives, to me, what was similar is the queen that is on the throne is a virgin queen who was supposed to bring peace. And there was different mothers involved. Like I believe this king had 6 wives. So a lot of similarities there to me. And there's also like a religious thing, like 2 different factions. They don't say it's Catholic and Protestant. They call it something else, Christians or something else. But to me, that's what gives it a more historical and authentic feel. And it was hard for me to get into at first. It's kind of gross when you go through and read. And she has the whole thing like in the beginning, like she went through a lot of trouble.
And I was
No, I wouldn't want to eat that. But so like, deception is a whipped syllabub and pomegranate is for witchcraft. So yeah, there's all different sins and then the corresponding food that you have to eat. And what that does is you go to heaven and the poor sin eater is absorbing everyone's sins. Right. So pretty much, they're screwed.
Good luck to them.
Good luck to you. So yeah, it was so different. And I find I read so many books that a lot of times when something's really different and quirky, I really like it. Yeah. So I like this one a lot.
Okay. I confess. So that's on my to read list. And I couldn't remember anything about it when you mentioned it. I was like, oh, I recognize that title in the cover. And I don't remember why it was on my list, but it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. I think you would like it.
Nice.
So
excellent. Okay. I don't have any the historical. All of mine, I'm just realizing, are more modern, but that's okay. So I'm going to start with this one. So The Push by Ashley Audrain has been getting lots of buzz lately. So if you haven't, it was a Good Morning America book club pick. And this one is about a family. So there's a young mother named Blythe. She and her husband Fox have a baby named Violet, and Blythe is like incapable of attaching to the baby. Like there's something going on. And as the baby gets older, she starts to wonder if there's something psychologically wrong with Violet, with the baby. So that's The Push. And if you liked this one, my recommendation is that next you pick up Baby Teeth by Zoya Stage. So I know we've at least mentioned this book before. It was our first Grease Reads book, our inaugural Grease Reads title. So this is another one. You've got young parents, in this case, Suzette and Alex, and their daughter, Hannah. And Hannah, like there's something
up with
something
Hannah.
going on with Hannah. But in this case, in Baby Teeth, you actually have alternating point of view chapters from Suzette's point of view and Hannah's. So you actually get the child's point of view, which doesn't necessarily make it less ambiguous in some ways, because there's still a lot of questions, I think, that are left open-ended about what's going on with Hannah. But you at least have some confirmation of like what her motives are and what she thinks is going on. And I think that Baby Teeth is a slightly more sophisticated take on that same kind of premise. So really loved this one. We had some great discussions about it when it was our Grease Reads title. And if you go back in our book break, oh no, we didn't talk about Baby Teeth. We didn't do a spoiler special on book break.
No, I think we did the spoiler special on her second book.
You're right. Okay. But there is still some information on the website from when this was our Grease Reads title. So Baby Teeth, Zoya Stage, Creepy Kids, check it out.
Creepy kids, mothers that don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's like a whole genre now.
Yeah. All right. My next one, this book came out like about a year or so ago. It's The Girls Are All So Nice Here. And the premise was, a 10-year college reunion, a murder in the past. Things start going wrong. So yeah,
Always.
If you like this type of read, I was also thinking A Secret History by Donna Tartt, and there's a teen book too that, very much that, what is going on type thing. This is the new one that I would recommend you read. It's In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley. Oh, Ashley's name is covered up. God. Winstead. So Ashley Winstead. So this one kind of, you have our main character is Jessica Miller, and Jessica is plotting her triumphant return to college. It's been 10 years. She's got a fantastic job. She looks great. So she can't wait to go and show off her new self at her 10-year reunion. Only problem is 10 years ago, there was this close-knit group of 7 friends. And of course, one of them is murdered during college. So there's that little bit to deal with when Jessica goes back. And what she finds is when she's going to make her return at this big campus event is that someone is still thinking about this murder. There was a brother that was younger than them who has made it his life's journey to try to determine what really happened, because one of the original friends was charged, of course, the boyfriend in the group, but not enough evidence ever came to pass and the charges didn't stick. So yes, so this is told in like a dual timeline where you're flashing back to the events in college to that fateful day, and then also what these modern characters, like who ended up with who. It cracks me up because in these books, the people always get married to other people, like within the friends group.
Oh, yeah.
But then, yeah, it's like they
Absolutely.
never move on or go
No.
anywhere else, you
No.
know?
No,
So
the circle is the circle.
yeah, the circle is on, you know, is always contained. But
Mhm.
so that kind of cracks me up because it's like so unrealistic.
Sure.
But a lot of this is unrealistic. But you know what? I just kind of stayed awake and plowed
Mhm.
through just because I wanted to figure out what happened.
Mhm.
So if you like one of those good kind of entertaining thrillers,
Mhm.
I would recommend In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife.
Nice.
Especially if you like, you know, thinking about your 10-year reunion and what could have happened.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I mean, those are so much fun to just blow through.
Yes, especially if you like, you know, one of the books I'm going to talk about was a very serious book. It was a
Mhm.
memoir. So I really needed some reading candy
Yeah,
after reading
absolutely.
it. So
Palate cleanser.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Excellent.
The sherbet, you know, in between
There you
courses.
go. Let's see. So I'm going to do this one next. So my next one is Leave the World Behind by Ruman Alam. And I don't think either one of us have talked about this book on Book Break, but I'm pretty sure we've both read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, for those not familiar, Leave the World Behind is almost like a locked room story. So we've got a family who rents an Airbnb for vacation on like Long Island, I think, like way out in the boonies. And while they're there, some sort of unnamed disaster happens. And the couple who own the Airbnb end up coming back. So you've got these two families sharing the same space. No one really knows exactly what's going on, but like kind of weird things are happening. And there's just kind of this sense of looming disaster over the whole
an
thing.
apocalyptic vibe.
Yes, absolutely. So if you liked Leave the World Behind, or you were intrigued by that kind of apocalyptic, but still kind of like almost comedy of manners, like it's all about how these families relate to each other and how they deal with the facts as they start coming out. My recommendation for your next read is The Last by Hannah Jameson. So this is kind of a true apocalyptic novel. So we've got our main character is John Keller. He's a history professor and he's in Switzerland for a conference. So he's staying at this big fancy hotel in Switzerland. And while he's there, word starts to come through of nuclear attacks. So there have been nuclear explosions in multiple locations around the globe. And what we end up with is the folks who were at the hotel or who end up staying at the hotel through the beginning of this announcement, who may or may not be the last people left. So we've got sort of disparate people. We've got some people staying at the hotel and some employees of the hotel, and they're all kind of thrown together in this apocalyptic scenario. And it's very much about how this group of people is going to get along and how they relate to each other and what they do with the knowledge that the world is changing completely.
I can't help but see who recommended that, the little blurb on the front.
Emily St. John Mandel.
Yeah, Kirstra and I both like her.
Indeed. So, you know, Station 11 is a post-apocalyptic novel. And this one is like a during apocalyptic novel. So there's a little more explicit discussion of like what has happened, like what the disaster is. But it really is, again, about sort of an exploration of how these people come together or don't as they're thrown into this situation together.
Awesome. it's interesting because the next books I have, I see two of yours that I could have also
Mm.
used for this. The book that if you've read, and this was a Rochester Reads pick
Mhm.
a couple of years ago, we had the author here at the Greece Library, The Distance Between Us by Reina Grande. And this is the story of her journey from Mexico to the United States as an undocumented immigrant and the journey she had to take. If you'd like that type of thing, I just read this one. It was my book of the month club choice, and my daughter and I read it together. It's Beautiful Country by Keon Julie Wang, and very different, set in probably the early 1990s. So
Okay.
really not that far ago. And that's kind of what really struck me about this novel is you have this Chinese family. Mom is a college professor. I think dad had an equally, impressive job, and they come here and they are living in a tenement slum. Mom is working, both of them are working menial jobs in sweatshop type environment. And it was just shocking to me that in this day and age, this is still going on. I mean, I'm talking apartments where you don't have your own bathroom in the house and you're sharing it, and you're sharing a kitchen with others, and just the fear that permeates the family group on being discovered that they're undocumented, and also just the hunger, the way Julie, she comes when she's 7 years old. She describes just her hunger day to day, like living on rice that mom got at the sweatshop, and then some other things. I think they had like a $10 or $20 week. I mean, it was just a horrible budget for food. And just in a land of plenty, it was just such a dichotomy.
Sure.
One of the things that really struck me is she talked about how she used to go through trash, and she found like one time a bag of Polly Pockets. And I just remember my daughter playing with those about the same age. And it's just like, to her, it was like such a treasure that someone threw these Polly Pockets out. And so, yeah. And their Megu is what is in Chinese is translated to beautiful country. And that's what they called America. So that's where the title come from. The interesting thing is this author ends up going to Yale Law School. So she literally clawed her way. Her father put her into a school. And she, at first, since she didn't speak English, she got put into a classroom where it was like disabled or learning students.
Like special ed.
Yes. So she was literally reading picture books and taught herself English and how to read. And then fought to get back into her regular classroom. She's a very headstrong and stubborn person, but that worked in her favor. But it was fascinating. This is the book I was reading before I read my fluff over here. So yeah, if you like that kind of just really intense personal story, so either one of these, The Distance Between Us, if you didn't read it for Rochester Reads, but Beautiful Country is the one I just read. That's a newer book. Yeah.
That sounds like it might be a really good book discussion book.
Oh, excellent book discussion book. So many things to discuss. Yeah. And what happens actually to their family, their strong family unit, because, mom decides that she doesn't want to work these menial jobs. And even though she was a professor, she decides she's going back to school to try to become something in the United States. So yeah, it's, and father didn't agree. So yeah, it's a lot of things to discuss.
Okay. Nice. My last set, I'm gonna take it a little to the lighter side. There go our motion sensor lights again. So The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This has been just perennially popular since it came out. I think it came out in like 2018 or 2019, and we still can't keep a copy on the shelf.
Yes.
Like it's always checked out. We read this one for Pints and Prose last year. So
I think my group wanted to read that too.
Yeah. So the premise of The Silent Patient is we've got Alicia Berenson, who is an artist. She is married to like a high-powered fashion photographer. And one night, police are called to the house because the husband has been like brutally murdered, and Alicia is covered in blood and presumably killed him. And she is in fact convicted of his murder and sent to a mental institution. But from the moment she is arrested, she refuses to speak. So she does not speak a single word after she's arrested. And then we have a psychologist who is working with her. He's like determined to crack the silent patient and like kind of make his name on fixing this woman, or at least figuring out what happened to her. So that's The Silent Patient. So if you like that one, my recommendation is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. And this is actually another one that we read for Pints and Prose a couple of years ago. But the setup for Sometimes I Lie is our main character, Amber Reynolds, wakes up in the hospital. She wakes up, but she can't open her eyes really. She can't move, she can't speak, but she's conscious and she can hear what's going on around her.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Indeed, indeed. So she's lying in this bed in the hospital, hearing the things going on around her and trying to kind of piece together what happened. So we have her present in the hospital, and we also get some flashbacks and also some journal entries from when she was a child.
Oh.
So we've got kind of 3 timelines all sort of building to the conclusion. And it's one of these like twisty turny books where you can't quite believe anything you read, anything anyone tells you. And as you get more little bits of information, you start to kind of piece together what happened. And I enjoy those.
Oh, yes, yes.
I'm like good little mouse following all of the breadcrumbs, trying to figure out what the conclusion is.
And you know me, I love a good secret. So
yeah, absolutely. So this one, it's a quick little read. It's a short little book. But it packs kind of a punch, and it definitely keeps you guessing. I think one of the questions that I asked at book club was like, did anyone figure it out? And like, at what point did you figure it out? And not many people figured it out. Like, it really keeps you guessing to the end.
Well, now I'm going to have to, you've laid down the gauntlet. Yeah. I'm going to have to read that one.
Yeah, and you're going to tell me when you figured it out.
Yeah.
So Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. A good quick read.
Nice.
And then I have one kind of honorable mention that I'm not going to talk about too much. I just want to mention. So I have another pair of memoirs that are, I think, good kind of companion reads to each other. So Educated by Tara Westover and The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls.
And those are the ones I also thought about if you liked this one as well.
Yeah, so both memoirs of women growing up in kind of non-traditional family situations and how they come to terms with those situations and how they grow from there.
Right.
So,
all right.
So please let us know if you've read any of these books, if you have other read-alike suggestions for any of these books or books that we've mentioned before. I love a good read-alike.
Oh, I do too.
Always
looking for suggestions. And
absolutely.
Increasing my to-be-read pile.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Just the never-ending
to-be-read pile.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We will be back in 2 weeks, and we will talk to you then about some more books.
Take care.